6. Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the 4th Lunch and Learn for the Content Connection Committee we have for the 2022-23 school year. My name is Wyndham Kemsley. I'm joined again by Erica Lozano, who is the Secondary Instruction and Curriculum Coordinator for English Language Arts and Social Studies for grades 6 through 12. Before we get going, I just want to go over a few short housekeeping items. We do have a chat available for questions during this live session. So we encourage anybody who has questions, who wants to know more about what we're speaking about today, please utilize that chat function. We'll answer all the questions that we get. If we don't immediately, please be patient with us. We'll address them at certain points during the presentation. We ask that you do please keep those questions appropriate and in line with the subject matter at hand so that we can try and focus on answering the questions about the content that we're talking about today. This, of course, will be uploaded to our YouTube channel aside from the live stream once the live event has ended. So if you know anybody who wants to review this session, please invite them to visit our YouTube channel to watch the session in full once the live stream ends. With that, I think that we're ready to pass the torch on to Erica, if you're ready for us.
Great. Thank you so much, Wyndham. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today. For those of you who are new to us, welcome. We're going to talk about some important topics regarding social studies as we continue throughout the school year. And for those of you who are joining us for a second or third time or fourth time, we welcome you back. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen with you. We're going to be looking at two different things today, one of which is our presentation. And Wyndham, can you confirm that you can see the presentation?
Yep, we're good to go.
Perfect, thank you. And then at some point during the presentation, we're actually going to switch over to a website that's been built. I've mentioned it before, but today the information that's on that website is really pertinent. And so I'm going to go over a little bit of that with you as well. We are coming together today to really focus on the instructional materials adoption process in Rio Rancho Public Schools. This is following the same pathway that our Instructional Materials Adoption Committee for Social Studies is following this year. In our Lunch and Learn sessions leading up to this, we have talked a lot about the standards and what they mean for students and teachers. And now we're moving on to what it looks like in our district to really look for, evaluate, and recommend resources to engage students in those standards. I say this every time, but I'll continue to say it. You'll notice the puzzle pieces throughout the presentation. Not only did I think that was a really kind of cool presentation template, but it's just a reminder that we're all a piece of the puzzle that comes together to support our students. And you are a huge piece of that puzzle. So thank you again for being here and for the support that you provide to the students in our district. Wyndham already talked about this, but just a reminder, you can view this afterward on our Rio Rancho Public Schools YouTube site. And please know that you are more than welcome to share this information with anyone and everyone who's interested. And again, at the end, I'll share contact information if anybody has questions or wants to follow up on anything that's discussed here today. Before I dive into our next slide, just a reminder that we do have the feedback form bit.ly link that's listed in the upper left-hand corner, or later on it'll be in the bottom right-hand corner of the slides. You can not only provide me feedback on today's presentation through that link, but you can also ask additional questions. So as Wyndham said, if you have questions that are beyond the scope of the presentation today, feel free to leave them in that form, and I'd be more than happy to follow up with you. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I just want to note that I am, like Wyndham mentioned, I'm the secondary coordinator for social studies and English language arts, which means that I get to work with and support all of our English and social studies teachers, grades 6 through 12. I'm also the parent of a Rio Rancho Public School student, and I've got a little one who will be a student in about a year and a half. And just something fun that I always like to share, I'm I'm really enjoying right now with not only my colleagues across the building from me here, but also with my first grader at home. I'm really loving the conversations about social studies that are coming out of the new ELA curriculum at the elementary level, because they are tying exactly in with what our students need to prepare for what they're going to learn in middle school and high school. So we're seeing a lot of connections happening across the district, a lot of that alignment kindergarten through 12th grade, and it's just a really exciting time for social studies and for our students. The last time that we were together, or for those of you who weren't able to join us, when we met in January, we really looked at kind of the last phase of our standards exploration, and we looked at what it looks like for standards to come to life in the classroom and how you can be a support at home. On the website that I'll show you in just a bit, there are some great resources that we reviewed at our last session, and I really encourage you to take a look at those because it paints a pretty good picture of what social studies instruction might look like in the years ahead. Our purpose today is truly to outline and discuss the process for adopting instructional materials in Rio Rancho Public Schools. We are a district that does a very thorough process, and the process does look different from district to district, but ours is a year-long process, sometimes a little more, and I'm going to talk through with you what that looks like today. After we look at what the process looks like, that's when I'm going to dive into the instructional materials website so that you can know where you're actually able to go on and look at the resources that our committee has narrowed down to at this point. We're down to our final 2 or 3 resources, and so you'll have an opportunity to explore those. And then I will pause again for questions at the end of the session. I will stop right here real quick though. If there are any questions before we dive into the process, please let me know.
No questions so far, Erica.
Okay, thank you, Wyndham. And Wyndham already talked about this, so I'm going to go ahead and skip it. Again, that link is there if you have questions unrelated to today's content. And then at any time that you have a question, pop it into the chat. Wyndham will communicate that to me, and I'll stop at the next most convenient point and respond to your question. So, like I said, we're going to take a look at what the process looks like in Rio Rancho Public Schools. For those of you who aren't aware, every year there's a new content that is being looked at for updated resources and materials. So while this year is social studies, last year was middle school English language arts, the year before that was world languages and high school English. And so that process continues, and that cycle is determined by the New Mexico Public Education Department. In our district, we convene a committee of teachers, and then we also get student and parent input to recommend instructional materials to the Board of Education. The board reviews the recommendation, and then they make the final determination and approve that recommendation. And we'll be doing that in April of this year. Really, the purpose of the committee is to find high-quality instructional materials. So I don't know if you've ever ventured into the educational publishing world at all, but there's tons of resources out there, lots and lots and lots of them. And it's easy to get caught up in the pretty artwork or the beautiful images or, which book feels best in your hands. But that's not what we want to guide the decisions that we make. So we go through a very thorough process throughout the course of the year to find those high quality resources that really do serve the needs of all students in alignment with our New Mexico standards for social studies. Our committees or our committee members have several expectations that we hold them accountable for. It's not a hard job to hold teachers accountable for this. They're wonderful. They take this role very seriously, and they are great stewards of this work. So they are responsible for evaluating the resources. Only our committee votes. I am not a voting member of the committee. They act as a leader and a liaison on their campus, and they are the contact person if any other teachers of social studies or other contents have questions. They bring those questions back to the committee and we discuss as a group. And then finally, they organize meetings on their campus during our Wednesday professional learning community windows of time to share what they've learned through the committee meetings and to also bring resources that we're looking at and evaluating back to teachers so that they can look at them. And then they even take them into the classroom and kind of test drive those materials so they can see what the student response looks like. This is an overview of our committee for this year. We have our group divided into 4 groups. The reason for that is twofold. Number one, a group of 10 to 12 teachers makes for a really great environment for rich discussions. If we were to bring all 36 members of the committee together at one time, looking at multiple contents, we might not be able to dig as deep as we'd like to. The other reason is purely logistical. It's to alleviate some of the sub-burden on our campuses so that we're not taking too many social studies teachers off of one campus on any given day. So we have the 4 groups, as you can see here. All campuses are equally represented amongst those groups. And then we do have teachers that are representing our students with special needs. We have an education technology specialist who brings a lot of insight about the digital components and how to not just use them as resources, but actual tools for learning. And then finally, we have English language development coordinators who have joined us to really evaluate resources through the lens of the linguistic needs of the students that they serve. We're also very excited this year because our Rio Rancho Public Schools Board President, Amanda Galbraith, has been joining us. She attends the, she works with Group 2 and Group 4, and her collaboration, her insight has been invaluable this year. We really enjoyed having her. I think the learning goes both ways. We're learning a lot from each other throughout this process. And we look forward to continuing to engage her in the process as we move forward. She is not a voting member, but she does contribute to our conversations, and we've been so happy to have her. I'm not going to go over this bullet point by bullet point, but I did want you to see what the process looks like across the entire year. So this is just a snapshot of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. As I mentioned, in the fall, we focused on standards. Now we're focusing on evaluation of instructional materials, and then we'll start to craft our curriculum documents and roll out the resources and the information to teachers beginning the end of this school year, leading into the start of the 23-24 school year. This slide, again, a lot of information, so I'm not going to read it word for word, but this breaks things down a little differently, and it also gives you a more specific idea of exactly what we've done. So over on the left, this is an overview of what we've done at each of our meetings in regards to standards work. And if you go to the website that I'm going to show you in a minute, if you go to the website and you go to our previous sessions section, you'll be able to link to this presentation and you can explore these links that I've included here. So this is what the committee did in the fall. Right now we're working on the instructional materials work, but then I really wanted to draw your attention to the community involvement work. You are part of the Lunch and Learn sessions, and below are the 3 sessions that have taken place before today. I'm going to take you to our Content Connections website in just a moment so that you can see what's available. And then finally, just this last week, we started gathering student feedback on the resources that are available. So we provided students with a student-friendly website. They had access to the student versions of the digital text, and they were able to hop online and explore and provide feedback on how it worked. What did they think of the text, of the activities? They kind of got to roam free throughout the resources and just explore to give us some feedback on what their experience is like through those resources. Any questions so far? Okay. So the last thing I wanted to mention to you before we hop onto that website is, what is our committee looking for in new social studies resources? the need for these resources is a long time coming. It is time to update. It's time to move forward in our classrooms. And so our committee has determined some priorities for what we're looking for. A non-negotiable is that it's aligned with our state standards. That is something that if there's a resource that we find early on is not aligned, we don't continue with the review. That is an absolute requirement, and our resource must at minimum meet that priority. We want resources that are accessible to all students, not only digitally, but also in print. So when our committee does meet, we do evaluate both the online and the print materials, and we're looking for a resource that offers both. One thing that's really critical this year, especially with our new standards, is that whatever resources we do select, they invite discussion and exploration of historical and current events from multiple perspectives, and that they engage students in those conversations in new, relevant, and authentic ways. We're also looking for something that promotes student inquiry and advocacy at developmentally appropriate levels. So I'm talking about what it looks like to be an active citizen or an advocate in 6th grade looks very different than what the standards call for at 12th grade. And that was what our last session largely focused on. We want to be able to assess students in multiple ways. So, a lot of the times I think if you've had any experiences from your educational career, you may have had teachers that you just got a multiple choice quiz or test at the end of every lesson or unit. We have a lot of teachers who do not teach in that way. So please note that I'm not suggesting that that's what we're trying to move away from. But I think when we think of social studies, a lot of the times that's what our experience has been for some of us. I know for me it was in a lot of my classes. And so we're looking for a resource that provides multiple ways to assess students because we learn in different ways, we show our learning in different ways. So that has been a priority of our committee. And then finally, that the resource provides instructional and academic support for all students, all learning styles, all linguistic levels. And so we really want to make sure that that's embedded within the resources that we select. We did have a question about the student feedback, how many students took part. As of yesterday, which was the last time that I checked, we had 1,100 students who had provided us feedback thus far. And it's pretty dead split between middle school and high school. And then amongst the middle schools and amongst the high schools, it's pretty evenly distributed, which is really exciting for our committee because we can look at that feedback and we can say, oh, this is representative of our district. It's a good sampling of student feedback from the district as a whole, whereas sometimes we get student feedback and it'll be really heavily weighted on the side of one school versus the other, depending on what was happening that day on the campus. And so we're really excited about the data set that we received. Thank you for that question. I wanted to kind of leave you with this as we get onto the website. The resources that we're considering for adoption right now, our current kindergartners, when they are in middle school, that's the next time that we will engage in this process again. So if you're joining us today as an elementary student, I would still encourage, or as the parent of an elementary student, I would still really encourage you to review these resources because if you have students who are in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, they will eventually use these resources when they get to the middle school or even the high school level if you have some students in 4th or 5th grade. So the impact, while it is focused on 6th through 12th grade, is truly district-wide. Okay, so I'm going to take you to our website. So this is let me go to the home page here. Wyndham, can you confirm that you can see this?
Yes, we're good.
Perfect, thank you so much. So this is our Content Connections website. The home page is pretty brief, but it does provide you some links to our additional pages as well as our social media sites. And there's a quick video here that walks you through the resources on the page. I think I've talked to you before about the Lunch and Learn page over here. This is where you can access all of the recordings and as well as any resources that I shared. They will be linked through this document, which looks like this. And then what I really wanted to show you today is our instructional materials page. So this is where we have provided um, links to the student versions of the text. If you are interested to see what teachers see, you can absolutely reach out to me. For the community website, we really thought that the community would be interested in the student experience. And I apologize if that assumption is incorrect. But down here, if you scroll down, you will see that the resources for sixth grade are listed here. So these are our 2 finalists. If you click on the red here link, it'll take you to the sample site, and then you just plug in the username and password that have been provided by the publisher. So you'll notice that we have resources for sixth grade, eighth grade, seventh and ninth are grouped together. Those resources are a little bit more difficult to get our hands on. They're more limited in terms of options. So these are the resources that will be recommended to the board. You'll notice ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade U.S. history, and then finally 12th grade government and economics. At the bottom of every grade level, there's a place to submit your feedback on what you think about these particular resources. That feedback will be taken back to our committee before they make their final determination. And then finally, at the bottom, if you'd like to explore more resources that were provided for parents and community members from the publishers that we're looking at, those resources are provided down here. So that's how you can engage in a review process with us digitally. If you'd like to see the resources in person, let me go to here. And I apologize, it's a little fuzzy. So if you'd like to come in person, we do have 2 in-person opportunities, and in each opportunity we have 2 sessions. So we have this, not today, but a week from today, we have our high school session. So we'll have a session 1:30 to 4. If you come to that session, you'll likely get to see a lot of our teachers. They will most likely come during that time. We also offer a later session for those who need to come after work from 5 to 7 p.m. And then middle school is a week later on February 22nd, same time. And all of that will be here at the Rio Rancho Public Schools Training Center on Laser Road. And we'll have signs out, so it'll be easy to get to when you get here. But if you're like me and you like to get your hands on an actual book and you want to flip through the pages and you're available, we'd love to have you here in person to explore with us. We'll also have opportunities to provide feedback while you're here as well. Any questions before I wrap us up today? Okay, well, if questions arise, go ahead and put them in the chat, and then Wyndham will get those questions to me. So our next session will be March 8th, same time, same place, and we'll focus on what our plan looks like for next year. So we talked a little bit about the process, then we'll dive into like what it actually looks like to roll out the standards and these resources to our students and our teachers. Then our second to last session, which will be in April, at that session, we will focus on the resources that were recommended. So these will be the resources that will go to the Board of Education that our committee says these are the best resources for the students of Rio Rancho Public Schools. And we'll dive a little deeper into what they look like. And then finally, we will have an open Q&A session for this entire process in May. And so I invite you to come at that time with any and all questions that you have, and we will answer as much as we can during that time. So that's all I have for you, just an overview again of our next session. We hope that you'll join us, or if you can't, just a reminder that all of our sessions are available on the Rio Rancho Public Schools YouTube channel. I'll stay on for a minute in case anyone has questions, but if not, I wish you a great day, and thank you so much for joining us for this Lunch and Learn session.